Eleanor Hayes smoothed her patched wool skirt as she entered Thornton's Mercantile, her worn leather boots silent on the wooden floor. At 28, she carried herself with quiet dignity despite the whispers that followed her through the small Colorado mining town of Silver Ridge. Her dark hair was neatly braided and pinned, and though her brown dress had been mended countless times, it was spotlessly clean and pressed. Behind the counter, Mrs. Thornton's expression shifted from professional courtesy to barely concealed disdain as she recognized her customer. "Eleanor, what brings you in today?" "Good morning, Mrs. Thornton," Eleanor replied, her voice steady despite the woman's cold tone. "I need to purchase some flour and salt, please, and perhaps some thread if you have it in brown." Mrs. Thornton made no move to gather the requested items. "Eleanor, your account is already overextended. I can't extend any more credit until you've paid what you owe." Heat rose in Eleanor's cheeks, but she maintained her composure. "I understand, ma'am. I have cash today." She reached into her small purse and carefully counted out coins, money she'd earned by taking in washing from the boarding house. The sound of expensive boots on hardwood announced the arrival of another customer. Eleanor glanced toward the door and saw a tall, distinguished man in his early 40s entering the store. His dark suit was expertly tailored, and everything about him spoke of wealth and position. This had to be Baron Wilhelm von Brandenburg, the German nobleman who had purchased the vast Copper Creek ranch outside of town 6 months ago. "Ah, Baron von Brandenburg," Mrs. Thornton gushed, her demeanor transforming instantly. "How wonderful to see you. What can I help you with today?" The Baron touched his hat politely. "Good morning, Mrs. Thornton. I'm in need of some household supplies, but please finish with your current customer first." Mrs. Thornton's smile faltered. "Oh, that's just Eleanor Hayes. She can wait." The dismissive tone made it clear what the shopkeeper thought of Eleanor's importance compared to the Baron's. Eleanor felt her face burn with humiliation. She had been standing at the counter first, money in hand, but was being pushed aside because of her social status. "Actually," the Baron said quietly, his accent lending formality to his words, "I believe the lady was here first. Please attend to her needs." Mrs. Thornton reluctantly gathered Eleanor's flour and salt, her movements sharp with irritation. As she wrapped the items, she muttered loudly enough for others to hear, "I don't know why some people even bother coming into respectable establishments when they clearly can't afford to shop here properly." Eleanor's hands trembled slightly as she placed her money on the counter, but she said nothing. She had learned that responding to such cruelty only made things worse. "That's quite enough," the Baron said firmly, his voice carrying natural authority. "The lady is conducting business with dignity and deserves to be treated with respect." Mrs. Thornton looked flustered. "Baron, I didn't mean any offense. It's just that Eleanor here is, well, she's from the poor side of town, hardly the same class of customer as yourself." The Baron's gray eyes hardened. "In my experience, Mrs. Thornton, a person's character has nothing to do with the size of their purse. And from what I've observed in just these few minutes, this young lady demonstrates far more grace and dignity than some others in this establishment." Eleanor gathered her purchases, overwhelmed by the stranger's unexpected defense of her character. "Thank you," she said quietly to the Baron, then headed quickly toward the door, eager to escape the uncomfortable scene. "Miss," the Baron called after her. "A moment, if you please." Eleanor paused at the door, uncertain whether this new attention would prove helpful or harmful. The Baron approached her with respectful distance. "I'm Wilhelm von Brandenburg. I don't believe we've been properly introduced." "Eleanor Hayes." "Sir," she replied, offering a small curtsy out of instinct. "Miss Hayes, I couldn't help but notice the way you conducted yourself in there, with such grace under difficult circumstances." Wilhelm's voice was thoughtful. "Tell me, what is your situation here in Silver Ridge?" Eleanor hesitated, unsure why this wealthy stranger would take interest in her circumstances. "I work as a seamstress and laundress, sir. I live in a small cabin on the edge of town." "And family?" "None living, sir. My parents passed from fever 3 years ago." Wilhelm nodded gravely. "Miss Hayes, this may seem presumptuous, but I have a proposition I'd like you to consider. My ranch is quite large, and I find myself in need of capable household management. Not merely a servant, you understand, but someone who could oversee the domestic operations with intelligence and good judgment." Eleanor's eyes widened. "Sir, I'm not sure I understand." I've been observing the people of this town for months, trying to determine who might be trustworthy and capable. What I witnessed today tells me far more about your character than any recommendation letter could. You maintained your dignity in the face of deliberate humiliation. You conducted your business honestly despite financial hardship, and you showed grace when others showed you none. Mrs. Thornton, who had been listening from behind her counter, scoffed audibly. Baron, surely you're not serious. Eleanor Hayes is nobody. She has no education, no refinement, no proper background for managing a grand household. Wilhelm turned to face Mrs. Thornton, his expression cold. Madam, I've spent my life around European nobility and American high society. I've learned to recognize true refinement when I see it, and it has very little to do with bank accounts or social position. Miss Hayes has demonstrated more genuine quality in 10 minutes than many people do in a lifetime. He returned his attention to Eleanor. Miss Hayes, I'm offering you a position as head of household at Copper Creek Ranch. You would oversee all domestic operations, manage a small staff, and be responsible for the general running of the house. The salary would be generous and you would have your own comfortable quarters. Eleanor could hardly believe what she was hearing. Sir, why would you offer such an opportunity to someone you've just met? Because I believe character reveals itself in how people behave when they think no one important is watching. You showed kindness to Mrs. Thornton despite her cruelty, dignity in the face of humiliation, and honesty in your business dealings. These are the qualities I value, not social connections or inherited wealth. Mrs. Thornton's voice dripped with disbelief. This is preposterous. Eleanor Hayes running a grand household? She can barely afford flour. Wilhelm's expression grew stern. Mrs. Thornton, Miss Hayes's current financial circumstances are the result of limited opportunities, not personal failings. Given proper support and responsibility, I believe she will excel beyond your narrow expectations. Eleanor felt tears threatening, but managed to maintain her composure. Baron von Brandenburg, I'm deeply honored by your offer, but I should be honest with you about my background. I have no experience managing large households or supervising staff. Miss Hayes, Wilhelm said gently, I've watched supposed experts manage households with incompetence and dishonesty. I would rather trust someone with natural intelligence and integrity, whom I can train, than someone with impressive credentials but questionable character. 3 months later, Eleanor stood in the grand parlor of Copper Creek Ranch, reviewing household accounts with the efficiency that had quickly made her indispensable to the ranch's operations.
She wore a well-tailored dress in deep blue, her hair styled in a sophisticated arrangement that reflected her new position. The transformation had been remarkable.
Wilhelm had been right about her capabilities. Given the opportunity and resources, Eleanor had proven herself an excellent administrator and manager. She had earned the respect of the household staff through fair treatment and clear expectations, and had brought organization and efficiency to every aspect of the ranch's domestic operations. Wilhelm entered the parlor, carrying the afternoon mail. Eleanor, there's a letter here from my business associates in Denver. They're planning to visit next month to discuss some investments, and they'll be bringing their wives. Eleanor looked up from her ledgers. How many guests should I prepare for? 6 couples staying for 4 days. They're used to entertaining in the finest Denver society. Wilhelm paused, studying Eleanor's confident expression. I should warn you, they can be rather particular about social proprieties. Eleanor smiled, the expression so different from the anxious woman Wilhelm had met in the mercantile. I believe we can provide hospitality that will meet their expectations. I'll plan menus with cook, arrange accommodations, and ensure everything runs smoothly. Wilhelm marveled at the change in Eleanor, not just in her appearance and circumstances, but in her bearing and confidence. Given the opportunity to develop her natural abilities, she had blossomed into exactly the kind of person he had recognized she could become. Eleanor, he said quietly, I want you to know how grateful I am that you accepted my offer. You've transformed this house into a real home. Eleanor set down her pen and looked at Wilhelm with genuine warmth. Sir, you gave me the chance to become who I was meant to be. In that mercantile, I felt like I was worth nothing. Here I've learned that worth isn't measured by what you own, but by what you can contribute when given the opportunity. Wilhelm realized in that moment that his feelings for Eleanor had evolved far beyond professional respect. He had come to value not just her capabilities, but her intelligence, her kindness, and the warmth she brought to his previously solitary life. "Eleanor," he said carefully, "these past months have shown me something I didn't expect when I first offered you this position." Eleanor looked at him with curiosity and perhaps hope. "I've come to value your partnership in ways that go beyond household management. You've become my trusted advisor, my companion, and if I may be so bold, my friend. I find myself hoping that perhaps in time you might consider an even greater partnership." Eleanor's cheeks colored slightly, but her voice was steady. "Wilhelm, when you defended me in that store, you saw something in me that I had forgotten was there. You've given me the chance to discover my own worth and capabilities. If you're asking what I think you're asking, then yes, I would very much like to explore that possibility." As they stood in the elegant parlor that Eleanor now managed with such skill, Wilhelm understood that the most valuable things in life couldn't be purchased or inherited. Eleanor's worth had never been about her bank account or social connections. It had been about her character, her intelligence, and her capacity for growth when given the opportunity to flourish. And Eleanor, looking around the beautiful home she had helped create, realized that true security didn't come from wealth itself, but from being valued for who you really were and what you could contribute when someone believed in your potential.